I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
Capella University is rethinking higher education. With its game-changing FlexPath learning format, you can earn your degree on your schedule and fit your education seamlessly into your life. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
I mean, there's sometimes where people just get angry and leave. And I would rather that they got angry and leave than stay there and ruin the whole show for everybody else.
Yeah, but you're an equal opportunity offender, though.
Yeah.
Like, you hit
but
the
someone
WASP
called me
people,
out the other
Jew
night.
people.
A woman goes, "This is offensive, it's racist, and you're dealing with stereotypes." And I go, "Okay, more. Tell me." She goes, "Well, you made fun of the Jews and the blacks." And I said, "Well, I'm a Jew, so can I do that?" She goes, "The blacks." And I go, "Are you black?" She goes, "I'm Dominican." I go, "All right, I'll try and come up with some Dominican jokes, because right now you just seem offended by what offends you. You don't give a shit that I'm making fun of Jews because I'm a Jew, but what offends you is what I shouldn't be saying." So I called her out on it, and then sure enough, 3 minutes later, she's laughing at more racist jokes because I double down, I lean in, and she's laughing. And so I stopped and I go, "You're a hypocrite. You just called me out and you said it's not funny, so why are you laughing at it right now?" And she was stumped.
Right, because
She didn't get it. It was fake outrage.
So, Aaron Berg, you broke the world record, and the documentary is out or coming out October 15th. You did 25 comedy sets in one night, which for anybody who doesn't know is incredibly difficult for so many reasons. Maybe just list some of the reasons why this is difficult, why this is like an amazing, and it's like a world record. Nobody else will do it.
Almost doubled the old world record, which was 13. It's so difficult because so many things. It's so hard to get 25 sets scheduled. You have to be in at a lot of clubs. People have to like you, have to want to work with you. You have to run around this crazy city on a Saturday night and be in 25 different locations. Even though some of the shows were at the same location, they were never back to back.
Because you can't do back to back, right? They would be the same show.
Yeah. Or like I couldn't do the end of a New York Comedy Club show and then wait for the next show to start. There just wasn't enough time. So
Right, because there might be like a half hour or 45-minute break
where they have to get people in and get people out. So 25 locations I had to be at. I had a minivan. The van had the windshield wipers break down in the middle of a huge rainstorm. Then we couldn't take the van for a couple spots. So I had to take cabs. I had to run on foot. anyone could drop in at any moment on a Saturday and throw the whole schedule off. So even though I had all these times scheduled throughout the night, I had to be able to call audibles and be able to shift and be really fluid. And there was this attitude that I had that was very prevailing going into it, which was that in New York comedy, everything works out. So even if you're late, there'll be another comic standing by that can go on for 10 minutes. Or if you're early, somebody can shift. So that was the mental attitude I had going into it. And I was very positive going into it.
And you mentioned a couple of things that are interesting. One is the clubs all had to like you. That had to take just years of building. I think I'm always interested not only in the causes of success, but the causes of failure. So, you spent years not only obviously developing the comedy skills, but you had to get along with people. You had to be diplomatic and work with all these business owners.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is patience and understanding. Like a prime example is where we're recording this right now. When I first moved to New York, I had a manager that got me a showcase at Caroline's, and I went on at Caroline's and like, oh, you're great, we'll start working you. And he got me a showcase at the Comic Strip, back when the Comic Strip was like a really good club. And I went on at the Comic Strip and did great, and I started working there. So I'm in at these two great clubs, and I'm meeting people. Andy Pitts is a guy I met, and he used to work a lot in the city. And then I came to Stand Up New York to do a showcase, and it was on a Saturday, I think maybe 7 p.m. or something. And I did my showcase, and it went okay. It wasn't the best set, and I came off. And I went to the manager. I go, do you want to see again, or should I? And he goes, nah, we got a lot of guys, but thanks.
Oh, my God.
So it was amazing to see. But then I couldn't let that be like, oh, well, fuck that club, blah, blah, blah. And it was Greg. Greg was the guy that was working at the time that, was just like, yeah, you're not for us. He didn't dig what I was doing. I think it was a bit too dirty for his liking at the time. And then, sure enough, years later, Greg and I are really good friends, and we get along great.
Yeah,
so
and not only is Stand Up New York featured in 25 sets, this documentary, but you're here all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I love it. So I think you don't take it personally, and you just go, okay, it'll happen when it happens. And that's one of the things about comedy too, is like everything that you feel like you're supposed to get, you really get a couple years later. You don't get it when you're ready for it.
Like, what did you feel you were supposed to get, like, when you were, 8, 9 years in? Because you've been, like, what are you, like, 17, 18 years in?
I'm 18 years in. So when I first moved here, I'm like, I should be working at every club. And, of course, that took, 2 or 3 years at least. You're like, oh, I should be making a living. I should be making this much. I should have a fan base. All that stuff just takes longer than you think it would take. It's not when you're ready for it. Artistically, it just happens when it happens, because there's always people ahead of you. There's always people behind you. That's one of the biggest things in stand-up, is you can't compare yourself to these other comics, because you get so miserable.
Yeah, what's the most miserable you've been?
Well, I used to look at people and I'd be like, oh, they've got an HBO special, and somebody that wasn't that far enough away artistically, like say a Jim Jeffries, who stylistically, I worked at the same format. I was doing long form stories for a long time, and they were dirty and they were controversial. But Jim Jeffries had done tons of HBO specials and was incredibly famous, and I was toiling away as a unknown nightclub comic. So you can't. Getting angry about that doesn't put a fire under your ass. When you go, oh, this fucking guy's got this, you think it's going to be like, well, I got to work harder to get that. It doesn't do that. It just puts you in this shell of negativity, and it's not a good place to create from.
So how do you avoid that shell? Because I think a lot of, not only comedians, but in every line of business, go through that. I think there's always the compare despair.
Yeah, and it's a horrible place to be. How do you avoid? You keep your eyes on your own paper, which is like an expression like Amy Hawthorne, who's the booker at New York Comedy Club now. She says that a lot. It's like, keep your eyes, just focus on what you're doing. And it's very insular insofar as if you do that work, usually writing cures everything. So if you're frustrated, if you write, you'll either get new jokes out of it or it'll vent, and that helps you move to the next level. But another way to beat it is to be like, okay, let me just focus on what I want and what I want to do.
Well,
when you personalize that, it makes it much more achievable. So now, It's like, even though I know people that are getting HBO specials and stuff, it doesn't seem the same as it used to. 10 years ago, you thought HBO was the be-all and end-all of comedy specials. And now it's not. There's more power sometimes behind putting your own thing out.
Well, it's an interesting thing, and I want to talk about the documentary itself, but one thing I'm curious about is TV still relevant at all for a comedy special? Like, why not just put, for instance, this documentary 25 sets on YouTube, where it would probably get, just as many views, if not more?
Right. I think we're still trying to make money off of it. So I think that the streaming model, I mean, this is the first thing I've made and put out. So we're hoping to make money off of it. I don't know if after a year, if a ton of people see it and we haven't seen any money, then I'll be like, oh, okay, why are we even doing that? Let's just put something out. But there's a legitimacy that's added to it. I feel like Amazon has made a good move in the past year where they're focusing more on putting comedy specials out and good comedy specials. They did Gaffigan. I think Alana Glazer had one. David Cross. Comedy Dynamics is making some big moves, and they're the distributor of this one. And they're getting into TV now too. So it's like, okay, maybe this can lead to something else. So that's my thoughts on that. And I'm also very happy that we had somebody that believed in it enough to be like, oh, more people should see this,
And so, again, like you were saying, what's difficult about doing 25 sets? I think also the wear and tear. Like, by the third or fourth set, you must be tired or tired and maybe you don't even remember, did I use this joke on this set already? Did I use this joke on the last set?
It took me until about 15 or 16 where I was really winded. Because the inception of this came around on a Saturday night where I did 9 sets. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of downtime in between. And I was like, I wonder how many I could do. And I went home and wrote down. And I was like, what if I did this? And I was like, that's 18. And I'm like, I could do 18 in a night. I wonder if that's possible. And then I looked back at the old record and I found out it was Steve Byrne. And I was like, okay, I should try and do this. Then I told somebody I'm going to try and do this. And they go, you should document it. You should shoot it. And then as we started to get ready to shoot it, I go, I should schedule more. So I really tried to juggle the schedule and figure out how long it would take to get in between these places. And that's how I came up with the 25 number. We actually aimed to do 26, and I couldn't.
Because you wanted to double the old record?
Yeah, and I just
make
wanted
it so
to,
hard for anybody to possibly compete.
And I'm so extreme. I just want, if I could have scheduled 30, I would have scheduled 30.
Now, you have a what I think is a very interesting and different style than just about any other comedian I've seen here in New York, and very different from Steve Burns, whose record you were breaking. Like, he does, gets up on the mic, tells jokes. You go in there and you destroy first off, I will say, and I don't think anyone has ever disagreed with me on this, laughs per minute, you're like number one that I've seen ever. You're going to be self-deprecating, but wouldn't you agree?
Thank you. I mean, that's the gauge by which I go, is just like, okay, I need another, when's the laugh come? When's the laugh? And that's how I judge it. Last night I did a set where I was incredibly low energy and I started doing a new bit that had no commitment in it and I was so low energy, but it's still getting laughs. So that's what I gauge by, is laughs. So
and I think part of the way you do that is you're so insanely good at crowd work. It's like you see the entire audience in front of you and you know exactly, like, I could try, I don't know if you're doing this in advance or like you say in the show and in the interviews about it, that you're very much in the moment, very present for each person, but you basically obliterate the entire crowd. Like, you pick out each person, you figure out what feature of that person you could kind of exaggerate, and then you start joking on it. And then to even analyze it further, you might imitate them. You might imitate those things that you've exaggerated.
Yeah, I don't think about that at all. I mean, I just look and I'm like, okay, what's funny? And that's it. So I would look at him. I'd go off on his shirt. I'd go off on the way he's sitting. I'd go off on his hair. I'd go off on... No, not you. Why is everything all about you all the time?
Don't fuck with me, Eric.
Yeah, I know. He's such a gangster. Old Mordecai over there. Shouldn't you be at synagogue by now? Go to synagogue. God.
But see, that's the thing too, is you'll take some features, you'll exaggerate them, and then you'll use like other cultural references that you'll
Yeah.
combine. Like you'll see some white guy in a hoodie, and then you'll say, here's Eminem over here, and then you'll start rapping Eminem lyrics and
Yeah.
make fun of Eminem as if that person really is Eminem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's very freeform and stupid. And I think I acknowledged several times in the doc where I'll say, like, my comedy's not good. I go, it's good insofar as it's funny, but it's not, at that point, this was shot 4 years ago, it wasn't overly poignant. I wasn't trying to shape a political view or a view on the Me Too movement or transitioning. It was all just like really simple stuff to make these people laugh, but it was funny and it was layered. Whereas now it's like, okay, I want to ruffle a few more feathers and I want to kind of push the boundaries a little bit more.
But so that begs the question: what is good comedy? Like, you are making people laugh, and as you've mentioned in a couple places, you're building with each joke on the crowd, you're building a certain tension. Like, you're potentially making fun of somebody,
Yeah.
so that increases the tension in the crowd, and then you have to release that tension with something stupid and funny that releases the tension.
Yeah.
So it is kind of pushing the edge, because where is the edge of that tension? It changes.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. A lot of people think the edge will be like, okay, I will do now an Asian accent where I change the R's and L's. And people go, that's so hacky. And I go, no, that was hacky in the 80s when a lot of people would do it. But now it's so edgy, people get fired for it. You know what I mean? It's like Shane Gillis lost his job because of a joke like that. So you can't tell me that's hacky when people are getting fired for it. So the line of edge, I think, constantly changes. And it's like, today I said the R word. I said retarded in front of a porno star, and she was offended by it. And I was like, and then you look at videos she makes, and you're like, oh, you're offended by a word, but you're gobbling down a massive black penis. Massive. James, this penis was so big, it was frightening. And I go, the penis is huge. And she goes, well, that's not even fully hard. I go, why? Were you talking during it? It was making him soft. So deal with that.
Yeah, like I had to explain the joke there.
Yeah, I had to. She wasn't that bright. But and then she made it. She's like, do you even have kids? I go, yeah, I do. And she's like, I bet your daughter doesn't even talk to you because of what you do. I'm like, because of what I do? Look at what you do. Huge. It was the biggest dick. It was you saw this dick in her mouth, and your first thought was she should be doing commercials for Quiznos. It was that type of thing. It was massive. It was stretching her mouth out.
All right. So again, obviously, what do you think the critics are saying is good comedy?
In my mind, really good comedy, and don't get me wrong, like I think I hit on it at points, but I think it's got its finger on the pulse to the degree where, Chappelle's last special and Burr's last special, probably even more. I mean, I thought Burr's was better in terms of craft, but I thought Chappelle is just a naturally funnier guy. They have their finger on the pulse. Everything that, if you went online for a day and read everything that's got everybody up in a hizzy, that's the stuff they're talking about.
But I feel like that's media stuff. Like, the media is interested in cancel culture, and so of course it's affecting jobs, like you mentioned, the Shane Gillis job being lost.
Sure, but what are the big things? The big things are race, the big things are sexuality, the big things are money, politics. So I think that and I would put those things into the comedy as it was 4 years ago, but I wasn't banging them over the head with it. Whereas now I do that a bit more. And I do feel like a better comic now than I did 4 years ago.
But, I feel like the average everyday person is mostly just worried about money and being alone and maybe health. The same things they've been worried about for thousands of years.
So then
there's politics and news.
Yeah.
Like, the news kind of creates what we're supposed to think is important and what we value. But actually everyone's just worried about money and career and health. And
if you go by that logic, which is really rational way to look at it, then comedy that makes people laugh is good comedy, because you go back to the old adage, these people are coming to get away from reality and they just want to sit and laugh and enjoy. And that is good comedy to those people. I think the more, though, if you look at yourself as a comics comic, then here's the stuff you want to tack on. But I never wanted to be, I just wanted to make people laugh. And if I can incorporate those two things, like there's this upper echelon of what you view ideal stand-up to be, and then there's what the crowd wants to laugh at, and somewhere in the middle there is where I'm trying to hit.
Somebody was telling me the other day that they thought good comedy always has anger behind it. Like you look at like Jerry Seinfeld's observations, his classic observational humor. It's always that he's angry about some stupid thing that he points at. It might be a little thing, but he's angry about it. Like the way they board airplanes, he'll get angry about it. Or the way they describe it, he'll get angry about. And there's not really, I don't really see anger in your comedy. And yet, again, you're getting the laughs.
Yeah. I think that there was anger for a while, but I also think it evolves out of that. And I think stand-up is turning. You look at somebody like Gary Goldman, whose new special, my therapist anyway, said it's exceptional. But he was also Gary's therapist for a long time.
It is very good.
Yeah. I haven't watched it, but I understand. And I've always liked Gary's stuff. I don't think he's an angry guy. I think he is an angry guy. I'm sorry. Why would I even say that? He threw another comic against the wall. He's an angry guy. But I think the stuff that he's dealing with isn't in an angry way. He's not coming out yelling or being super angry. He's twisted his anger into depression, which went into self-doubt and now comes out as well-crafted observations about what he went through. So I think anger factors itself in, but it doesn't have to be the pure driving force. It doesn't have to be like Kinison ranting and roaring anymore.
Although Chappelle's special, you can argue, was out of anger. He's angry at this so-called cancel culture, and particularly how people have aimed at him and criticized him.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm going to just take that to the extreme. I'm going to say the most extreme things that will anger people because I'm angry at them, and I'm going to let them criticize me.
Yeah.
And that's, his perspective. And you talk about, do you have a point of view that you're able to express? So it seems like you value his point of view, but not the point of view that you're bringing to the club.
Well, maybe I'm my own harshest critic. But let me say this, that I did a joke twice now, and it's such a stupid joke. And it comes from a place of anger where there's, you go online and you'll just hear so many of our friends, their whole thing is like, the president's an idiot. And it's a nonstop litany. So I go on stage, I go, the president's in trouble. I don't know much about politics, but I heard he got a peach or something. And it's the stupidest thing anyone could say. And I'm not lying, 95% of the people in the room laugh at that joke. And so it's this anger of just constantly hearing this hackneyed rhetoric that, the president's horrible, the president's awful, and then just making this silly joke. So the anger's gone into just pure adolescent silliness at best. And I make this joke, and that gets a laugh. And it's like a dad joke.
But I don't think it is a dad joke. I think, well, first off, dad jokes might not be bad because there's other aspects of a joke. There's delivery, there's your stage work, your crowd work, and so on. The second thing is there is a point of view, which is, do we always have to be aware of every phone conversation that's mentioned in the news and every little vote that's happening in Congress? And I know this is not a little vote, but even then, it's like, does it affect our lives? Like, again, is it going to affect my health, my wealth, or my ability to not be alone and so on?
Right.
So you're making a point of view that maybe people care too much about all these things.
My therapist would say we all live in a bubble. When I'll be like, oh, this doesn't affect me. Well, he's like, well, that's why the world's not a better place, because people think like you and you live in this bubble. And if you, instead of living in this bubble, you were more empathetic towards the rest of the world, then the world would be a better place.
I don't think your therapist is correct there.
Yeah, a lot of people say my therapist is probably wrong. I think he says the same stuff to all the comics all the time. You never know.
Yeah, I heard that there was one therapist.
Yeah, there's one therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
calls me by the wrong name and stuff. So Ray Romano, I'm a different guy.
So you decide to do this 25 sets, and you're planning it all out. Does Comedy Dynamics approach you and say, "Hey, well, we'll foot the bill.
No,
We'll
here's the interesting thing about how show business works. So I produce this on my own with the help of Matt O'Dowd, who's the director. And Matt used to direct some stuff for Comedy Central. I told him we're shooting this. He's interested, so we shoot it. So I pay for the shoot up front. He's like, I'll help out with a little bit, whatever he could. And then we get the thing all shot. Then we do pickup shots. Then we got to get an editor. So we go to an editor. Then we're like, let's go halves on this. We feel like it's going to go somewhere. So we go halves on it. It gets done. And then I'm like, what do we do with it? So the usual, management's like, let's get it to Comedy Central, blah, 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 blah. And you're just waiting around and nothing happens. And then I talked to a friend of mine, Mike, and Mike goes, look, I'm developing some stuff with Comedy Dynamics. I've gotten a few things to them. Let me take a look at it. He takes a look at it in the very early stages. He gives us some notes. We go back. We get another editor. The editor puts his vision into it. Then we've got something. We send it to him, and he goes, I think they'll dig this. So then he sends it to Comedy Dynamics, and they go, okay, we want to distribute it. But at that point, everything's already paid for. So when you bring on a distributor, basically you're just slapping their names on it. They get a production credit. And, what have they done? In terms of seeing the project from zero to where it's at, nothing. But they have that capacity because they have the contacts to get it out there and get eyes on it. So that's how the business works at that level.
I also think for you, there was probably some validation, like, oh, okay, other people are on the team here. They're joining me on this ride of trying to get this, that this is important. They're going to try to get this out here.
Yeah, and it's, Comedy Dynamics is a good company. They're expanding. They're doing the new Mad About You reboot, and they get their fingers into different pies too. And I like the fact that creatively and artistically, they didn't have any say. I like that we were fully in control of it, that they weren't like, you need to change this, and that they watched it and they're like, oh, this is good. People are going to watch this. So from there, I like the fact that, we were able to hold on to the integrity that we had with the project and make it. And it wasn't an easy road. When we first shot it, it was just a puff piece on me where it's like, watch me do all these sets. And then we were able to make an actual story out of it and show how relevant the New York comedy scene is and show my relationship with my girlfriend at the time, which then evolved into marriage and having a kid. So
that was very sweet, by the way. Like she's like pretty much crying while she describes your blossoming relationship.
It would seem like she loved me so much back then. I'll look back at it and I'll be like, boy, she loved me. And then I'll come home and she'll be like, hi. And but we're getting along very well now. We did couples therapy together for a Showtime series. And
what series?
It's called Couples Therapy. And the first season of it just came out, and you could see us in the trailer a little bit, but they cut us out of the first season. And they're like, we'll use you in the second season if it comes around. So then it was very revelatory, and we dug really deep. And I was like, I don't want anyone to see this because it's going to hurt my brand, which is big time asshole. And we didn't want anyone to see it. And Christine was going through a really tough time. We almost got divorced. We were in couples therapy for 5 months. And at the end of the 5 months, on that last day, I was this close. My fingers are very close together, if you're listening, to getting a divorce, like in the session while they were shooting. And we didn't, and we muscled it through. And
why? What was going
on? She was going through postpartum depression. There was a lot of resentment because I was working, and I was resentful because I was working and supporting us. She resented me because I got to work, whereas she had to take care of our child at the time. There was a lot of resentment happening, and we do the same thing. I mean, we do comedy, and there was resentment on both sides, and she was up with the baby a lot, and I was like, I have to sleep because I have to do the show, and I have to do the sets at night. So we weren't getting along, and then that last day we were about to get divorced. We didn't. We stayed the course, and now we're getting along very well. We're connecting again, and we feel love. But we're in this show, and they're like, oh, you're not in the first season. So we're so happy we're not in the first season. And then the reviews for Couples Therapy came out, and they are rave. People love the show. There's never been a show like it because it really delves into real situations. And there's nothing glamorous about it. It's just a therapist with these couples. So now it looks like we're going to be season 2 of this thing. So, and I cry a lot throughout it. I cry, and I didn't want to cry. The first time I cried on camera, I'm like covering my eyes, crying. It's really awkward. And it was at a point in time when I was going through some comedy controversy because fans of my show In Hot Water had made some jokes, and some people had interpreted them as threats, which they weren't. And then obviously as time passed, we found out that this person was full of crap and they'd made stuff up. So we were going through that and dealing with that as Piper was like, a real small baby. It was difficult. It was really difficult. So to go back and see Christine in 25 sets, I'll always do that as a heartwarming moment. And then I'll show it to her and she'll be like, I don't want to see that.
You should have it like just constantly playing, like
Yeah.
just that scene.
Set
with
up
her.
a projector in my kitchen and just play it on a loop. It
Yeah.
would be wonderful.
So you're in the middle of doing these sets. You walk into any of these comedy clubs like The Stand or New York Comedy Club or wherever, and it seems like you just go right up on stage. I'm sure there was some waiting time, but what do? You look out at the audience. What's your first thing? You're not doing standard material. You're doing mostly
crowd work. There was one joke I used several times that night. I think it was how I like to have sex with black women. But yeah, I would walk in, and of course I wanted every set to be great because we're shooting all the sets. So I didn't want to have bad sets. And I would go up and just be like, all right, here we go. Here's how much time we got. Let's get into it. Boom, 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 boom. And I hit, but there were some bad sets. There was one where some guy was all high on pills early in the night.
Oh, I remember that one.
There's another one where it was just like a couple chatty women. There was one that was 3 people from Amsterdam or something.
At the Grizzly Pear,
At the Grizzly Pear. And as the shows progressed and the night got longer, and, I would say probably 18 to 20 of those sets were good. 5 were probably amazing. And then there were some real stinkers. So it shows a nice mix, but the number's insane. 25 is an insane amount of sets to do in a night. But now to me, 3 to 5 is an easy night. Like 3 to 5 sets is an easy night.
Is that what you usually do?
Yeah.
Like
Like
every
Saturday,
night?
I only did 3, and I was like, this is so leisurely.
Huh.
Yeah.
Where'd you do them?
Saturday, I was here at Stand Up New York. I was at West Side Comedy Club, and I was at Gotham. And it was, enjoyable.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, We believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So, I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. So you get out on the stage and again, you look out at the audience. What's your first? You also have this thing with your crowd where you always are calling out what's in the room. So if one side's laughing, the other side isn't. You notice it right away. Like I've got this side, you sir, you seem unhappy.
Yeah.
And then you might make fun of them or you might go on or like, oh, okay, then I got you back like later on. So you're always calling out what's in the crowd. Again, you're finding the people with sort of the most exaggerated features in some way. And then it does seem like you've either got I want to say it, but maybe you'll disagree. You have some pre-canned material like, oh, here's this person. I've seen him 100 times before. This type of person.
Yeah.
I know exactly what to say to get everyone to laugh. And then other things you're improving on the spot.
Yeah.
You're also doing cold reads. There was one set where you actually guessed someone's name.
Yeah.
So again, like what's the mixture? Like when you get nervous, you start to get into the pre-canned stuff works?
Yeah, and it's not nervous. It's just like, okay, if I feel like if I take a leap and it doesn't pay off, I'll fall back on that pre-canned stuff. And that's autopilot for me, which I try to avoid because I really feel like when I just go off, it's so scary to walk that tightrope, but that tightrope pays off the most. And the audience is aware of it, and they can feel if it's in the moment or if it's pre-canned shit. And when it's in the moment, they're almost not more forgiving, but they have admiration for what you're doing. They can see you're up there with no net, and they respect that more.
But I think even I'm going to put quotes right now, like your quote-unquote pre-canned stuff, people don't know. Because I've heard people say after your sets, it's how did he come up with that whole thing, just on the fly?
Yeah.
And not realizing which parts were...
Well, that's the art, is making it not look like art. Right?
Yeah, so they can't really tell that much.
Yeah.
And
But I feel, as like from an artistic point of view, in terms of purity, there's a different feeling. Going up and killing is a thing. Going up and trying new stuff and having it fall or succeed is a different thing. Going 100% by the seat of your pants is so thrilling because you really have. I mean, it trickles into. So let's say my Saturday night shows where I know I have to do well. So even though I'll try new stuff, I know these people are paying top dollar. They need to be entertained. It'll trickle into that. So even if I go into the quote unquote prepared stuff, whatever it is, there's still reflections of, it's in the moment because it's just popping into my head. What am I going to say next? I never know. I used to be on stage and I'd be doing a joke and I'd be like, this joke's going to come next. And you're thinking that. I have no idea now.
And so, like you mentioned at one point, for your first 7-8 years, particularly when you were in Canada, you were telling these stories, you were telling material of jokes. What switched that allowed you to go, or that you decided to go from material that you had written to crowd work?
The volume of sets in New York, because you get to do so many, you get bored with your own stuff. So even if audiences aren't bored with it, you're bored, and that's why you evolve so much faster in New York.
But at the same time, you're talking about developing your point of view, and you point to comedians like Chappelle or Bill Burr, where they have their notebooks filled with jokes that they're trying out when they go to clubs.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe you're torn yourself a little between these two styles.
Yeah. I mean, I feel there's this, I'd love to be that next Rickles guy, that just goes out and insults people and makes people laugh really hard. But there's also, you can't have it both. It's so hard to have it. Grass is always greener on the other side. So I'd love to be that poignant guy like a Burr that people look to. But it's also like, look, I'd take Larry the Cable Guy's career, He's doing okay.
Yeah.
I'd be slinging antacid if you threw me the right amount of money.
But with the crowd work, it feels like I would think that that's really hard. Like, it's one thing if you think for months and years and you work on these jokes, forever. Like Seinfeld says, it took him 15 years to come up with the Pop-Tart joke or whatever. Yeah. Like, so there's one school of thought that says, okay, we've got to master this style. But that the crowd work, because you're riffing and improvising and getting more laughter, almost. I don't know why crowd work gets more laughter, but it does.
Because it's immediate and people know that.
And people like being engaged with. Like, some people are afraid, but you do it in a very, your persona on stage is a little bit hostile but forgiving.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to attack somebody, but you bring it, you reel it back really quickly so they have time to laugh rather than getting upset at you. And again, I think that's a difficult skill. Like, a lot of comedians won't do crowd work because, like you say, it's jumping out on that tight wire.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I say this in the doc too, where I was like, it's fun. It's fun for me and it's fun for them, and it should be that. They shouldn't have to be hit over the head the whole show. Being why are you not laughing at this because you're too politically correct? I think that there's a nice wave where you can make them laugh at the stuff that they don't want to laugh at.
And it's not like you're politically correct. Again, in terms of point of view, almost every joke you say is not politically correct.
Right.
So you do have a point of view that you're going to push people over the edge. There's even one point in the special where you say, I forget the exact quote. You said, that made some people uncomfortable, but other people realize this is satire and they laughed.
Yeah.
Like, you're part of doing the crowd work where you're going over that edge is educating the audience a little bit so that you almost shame them into laughing at you.
Yeah. I mean, the laugh is the end goal. That's really what it is. It's not, I don't want them to go home and be like, we learned a lot tonight.
But Chappelle said, he said in Will Smith's show that was on Facebook called Bucket List, he goes to Chappelle for advice. He's going to do stand-up comedy. He goes to Chappelle for advice. And Chappelle says, better to be interesting than to be funny. And, I feel like you feel your stuff is not as interesting, even though you are going over that edge repeatedly.
Right. Yeah, I think I'd rather be funny than interesting. It was
which is important.
Yeah.
Being again, like what you said, people are going to a comedy club to laugh.
Look,
I'm not going to a TED Talk.
No, and I think that if you're funny, the people are trying to take away that rule. Remember a couple years ago where people were like, "Hey, that's offensive," and they're like, "Yeah, but as long as it's funny, it's okay." And now people are like, "Well, why is that? Why are you saying if that still hurts people? Why are you still doing it? Because it's funny." And I think the benefit of people laughing in a public setting with a room full of strangers has so many benefits and makes what a comedian does a very special thing. But, the people that are attacking comedy are saying, well, it's not that special to make people laugh and feel good. It'd be better if you made them feel good by not using these words and using appropriate pronouns. So that's the trade-off that, comedy is under attack more so than people. The notion of it. I mean, if you pay attention to what's happening online, it's people trying to change the definition of what comedy is.
What do you think they're changing it to?
It used to be, if it makes people laugh, it's funny. Now they're saying, well, it can make people laugh, but it also has to be correcting social conditions while you're doing that.
So, like, for instance, Rodney Dangerfield, you don't get the sense that he ever focused on political correctness. He was just very stripped down, set up punchline,
Yeah.
on and on and on. So just making people laugh.
Yeah.
And
Robin Williams.
yeah,
But, people go back and they mention Robin Williams. Well, he would do this one voice for black people where it was like, I'm a black fella. And people go back and get offended by that now.
but you're an equal opportunity offender though.
Yeah.
Like you hit
But
the
someone called
WASP
me out
people,
the
the
other
Jew
night.
people.
A woman goes, "This is offensive. It's racist, and you're dealing with stereotypes." And I go, "Okay, more. Tell me." She goes, "Well, you made fun of the Jews and the blacks." And I said, "Well, I'm a Jew, so can I do that?" She goes, "The blacks." And I go, "Are you black?" She goes, "I'm Dominican." I go, "All right, I'll try and come up with some Dominican jokes because right now you just seem offended by what offends you. You don't give a shit that I'm making fun of Jews because I'm a Jew, but what offends you is what I shouldn't be saying." So I called her out on it, and then sure enough, 3 minutes later, she's laughing at more racist jokes because I doubled down, I lean in, and she's laughing. And so I stopped and I go, "You're a fucking hypocrite. You just called me out and you said it's not funny, so why are you laughing at it right now?" And she was stumped.
Right, because
She didn't get it. It was fake outrage.
But that's why when, this distinction between interesting and funny, you're definitely doing something interesting. Like you don't stay within the edge. You definitely go beyond the edge. You increase the tension for each person to abnormal levels, and then you quickly do something to release that tension because it becomes so ludicrous that they all laugh. And like you say, you're engaging them. So it's almost like they have to have some reaction. And then everybody around them laughs as well.
Yeah.
So I just wonder because it feels like even, when I hear you talk about this stuff, you feel like you're not hitting some intellectual, point that these other comedians hit when I kind of think you're hitting more of it. Like you're going over the edge and you're doing stuff, you're improvising on the fly, coming up with hysterically funny stuff. I've never seen you bomb. I've seen every other comedian bomb.
Yeah. Thank you. I believe that there's maybe 50 really good comics in the world. There may be more. And my goal is to be in that mass of really good or great comics. And it's so you can't work for great. Great is an unachievable goal. If you set your goal, I want to be a great comic, you're going to fail endlessly and you're going to be miserable all the time. But if you say, hey, I want to enjoy this and make these people enjoy this, and then whatever happens, that may happen. But it's, I think I'm my own harshest critic, but I also blow smoke up my ass too, where sometimes I'll be like, okay, I really did what I set out to do, which is, be one of the better comics in New York City, and I feel like I'm doing that. And some people would disagree, and other people would say, oh, you're wonderful. So it is a very subjective art form, and I think myself witnessing myself doing it, I'm subjective about that. There's stuff that I like more. I like pushing. I really like pushing and taking something that I know isn't funny and then making it funny. Like now I say I had sex with my wife on her period, but you can't say that anymore because it offends women that don't get their periods because they have penises. And I go, so instead now we have to give it different names that are more PC. So I go, hey, you want to go upstairs and make the sheets look like the cafeteria floor at Columbine? And it's way less politically correct because children died. But it's less offensive than saying women get their periods because trans women don't. So it's amazing how it evolves.
So there's the material, which of course is one component, but there's also then kind of your stage presence, and you have to have confidence when you say these things. Like if you're sort of nervous, people will be all over you and kill you.
Yeah, they'll read it right away. If you don't deliver that Columbine line with some real oomph, it can it'll fall. They sense it. Audiences aren't dumb.
Right, and so have you ever lost the audience because you didn't have
but now I'll acknowledge, oh boy, I was in Somerville, New Jersey. I almost said it French, New Jersey, a couple weeks ago, and I go, how many kids do you have? This couple, it was a black man, white woman, and he goes, 2. And then he looked at his wife. I go, are you unsure? Was there did you forget about one? And he goes, our daughter died in July. And and it just took the energy out, and I have a daughter now. So a couple years ago, it would have been a different thing. And I go, all right, well, way to bring the show down. And he goes, well, you asked. And I go, I did. Now I got to pick it back up. So now we got to figure a way out of this. So there's no fourth wall with me. So it's just the thought, and the goal is to have the show go well. So then I redirect to another guy, make fun of him a bit, get them laughing again, and blah, blah, blah. And then once we're safe again and we're laughing, I could be like, we got over your dead daughter. Now let's all do it.
Well, but when you went from them, after he says, well, you asked, and you said your thing, and then you went to the next person, if you had just, I think the audience would have been able to read if you were trying to save yourself from the show dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you had to kind of commit to the next person almost as if that prior conversation
Right, but there's
hadn't
also
happened.
my actual feeling where and then I would get angry, so I'd be like, God, this whole side has so much tragedy on it. Whereas this side's just a bunch of nerds. So there's real anger, and that comes up too. I mean,
Do you exaggerate it in yourself? Like
No, I just try and feel what I'm actually feeling,
And so developing that stage presence, what did you do in the process of developing that? How did you practice that?
You have to be okay with silence. And that was in the earlier years where you have to be okay with them not laughing so that you can really find your voice and your intonation and how you're going to react to something. You have to be learning how to perform with the silence and create that. That's what longer stories could do as well. It helps build up that tension through silence and then release it with a big laugh.
But you don't do the longer story style anymore.
No, but that's the skill set that I learned from doing those stories for years, was being okay with silence. So if someone drops and I want to acknowledge something. If, sometimes a woman yells out, that's racist, that's there, at a good club, that person would be removed. Like, hey, you're not allowed to, but I want to engage in those conversations because that's something that genuinely intrigues me right now, because that's what comedy's going through. There's a lot of hobbyists and people that don't do comedy trying to dictate what comedy should be. I want to engage in those conversations because this person to me was something that I would only get on the internet. And I'm like, oh, this is a real person, because most of the time this is only on Facebook where people are like, this stuff's not funny, blah, blah, blah. And I've never encountered someone real. And then later that night, it was at Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and I opened, there was a table of black people, and I go, hey, your laughs matter. And someone just goes, I'm not okay with that, and just yelled it out. And I go, all right, well, here we go. And so it was 2 shows in a night where I go, why? What's up? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And he was a black actor. So then we just got into that. And then sure enough, 2 minutes later, he's right back on board. So
But how'd you get him back on board?
I think I made fun of the fact that he was an out-of-work gay actor, even though he wasn't gay. I kept pretending he was gay, and he was blowing people to try and get a line on on some Shakespeare upstate or something. And he had this big booming voice. It was all very ludicrous stuff, but he did come back around, and it's so fun to watch.
I feel that's the thing you do though, is that you will aim at that person to get more and more ludicrous until their friends around them basically can't help but laugh.
Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes where people just get angry and leave. And I would rather that they got angry and leave than stay there and ruin the whole show for everybody else.
Yeah.
Because there's a point where you can't argue with some people.
Yeah, because they're firm.
Yeah.
Why do they go to a comedy club?
Yeah.
So also, again, not only do you exaggerate these features of them and kind of make fun of it, you draw in all these cultural references, like some Shakespeare festival upstate or whatever it is. Each time you get more and more absurd. Like it's like you have this massive database of connections and that you can draw that are funny.
Well, I like to know a lot about, or at least a little bit about a lot of things. And I think that's where life experience comes in, so that, I can talk to sex workers just as easily as I could talk to investors. And I think that makes for broader appeal, and it makes you more knowledgeable. And you can't really be a good dumb stand-up. You have to keep learning, and wherever you get your information from is wherever you get your information from. So when I say I don't know a lot about politics and the president got a peach, I think that hits to some people that are like, yeah, we don't give a shit about what's happening with politics right now. It's interesting.
Well, why do you want to be a stand-up?
I loved performing. I mean, I always wanted to be a movie star, and that never worked out, and that's why I started doing stand-up. And now I can't be a movie star because the stuff I've done doing stand-up and doing my morning show. So
your morning show is off the hook. Like the 2 times I've been on it, it's like so hilarious. But you and Gino go way over the edge.
Yeah, I've put makeup on and played Colin Kaepernick, which is very frowned upon unless you're the Prime Minister of Canada. So yeah, there's that, and I've done. We've said the N-word in the past. We've said other slurs, and it's all stuff. And we've done all that stuff that Shane Gillis got fired for much less than we've done.
Right.
But
So do you think that caps you?
Yeah, I definitely think it.
Where do you think it has? Like, have you seen explicit evidence that it's capped you?
No, but I know. I can still do mainstream stuff, but if I were to get a big gig like SNL or something, it'd be, I would expect that call within an hour saying we can't have you anymore.
Do you think, like, when you're in a big theater, like, let's say, I know you did Atlantic City a few months ago, there was like 1,000+ people. Do you have harder time doing your style of crowd work? Because obviously you can't hit 1,000 people.
The Borgata's a great room because the lighting's so great at it's the Music Box Theater. That's wonderful. I've been in places where you can't see anything past the first row. I'm kneecapped at that. Mm-hmm. If I want to do what I want to do, it's really hard. So instead, I got to just put blinders on and do material. And it usually ends up being old material. And I usually feel unhappy about it.
You never, because I mean, you've had an interesting background, like, the stories I've heard you tell about what you've done before, stand-up. You don't think that that's, filled with material, autobiographical material that can be funny?
And it's so, there's guys that I look at like Ari Shaffir that do that so well, where he can just churn out so much autobiographical stuff. And I know I got to dig back, but it's a different part of the craft. Primarily I'm a nightclub comic and, a joke per minute guy. So I got to dig back. I got to sit down and write, and I got to do those old stories to get that stuff out of. There's no substitute for hard work in that case.
Well, what's next? 25 Sets comes out October 15th.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing to watch because you're breaking a world record, and I know how hard it is to do even 3 sets a night,
Yeah.
honestly. But you're doing 25, and what's next? What do you want to do next?
Next, I'm going to do my 4th album at the New York Comedy Festival. I'm doing American Etiquette, which was my 2nd book. So I do it as basically an audiobook recording, but with a live audience, and I improv in the chapters. So I'm going to record 2 shows, and that'll be an album that You Lucky Dog is producing. They're a newer company run by Aaron Hodges. So doing that album, and then I want to do a special within the next year, and trying to figure out how to do that right now. So I'm writing and performing with that end in mind, and then I'd like to do an In Hot Water movie at some point.
That'd be funny.
Yeah,
So what would
I
the
have no idea what it.
you have so
be
many
yet.
porn stars and me
Yeah.
on In Hot Water.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah,
With a special, I mean, there's been a lot of interesting crowd work comics that do special. Like Todd Barry did the crowd work tour. Judah Friedlander's special was all crowd work. Andrew Schultz just released on YouTube his crowd work tour.
Yeah.
So I think it's a thing that's happening that I've never seen before, which is an all crowd work tour.
yeah.
Or
I mean,
special.
I want to do a special. I want to do a special with no gimmicks and just kind of do an hour of stuff. That being said, I know some people are interested in seeing me do something similar to the 25 Sets doc, where I would do a lot of sets in a night and make that a special at various clubs. And Ray Romano kind of did it with his 2 clubs, and I think Andrew Schultz did like 5. I would do much more extra. I would do maybe 15 spots in a night and make a special out of that.
But I feel like you just did that.
What is a documentary? I consider this more of a documentary than a special.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with each set we get a joke here and there. We get like 2 or 3 jokes a set, and they're
Yeah.
all different. I don't think I don't remember you repeating, but you said you repeated once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe you repeated like I've got the left side
Yeah.
and I don't get the right side.
Yeah.
And I've seen you do it like left side's Fox News, the right side's MSNBC.
Yeah.
So you've kind of I don't know which side was supposed to be not funny or not, but
Yeah.
you let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me check my notes here because I was writing throughout the. No, I think. Oh, you had one joke, and I wonder if you came up with this on the fly or if you had used it before. This guy didn't like the use of the N-word Netanyahu. I guess you were saying to a Jewish person, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I remember that. Do you know if that was something you had used before? Or?
I think it was something that was in my mind. I may have used it once or twice before. I just always thought it was funny because at that time, Netanyahu there was so much heat on him and there was so much happening politically. Obama was still president when I did that thing. And he had, a very liberal stance on Israel at that point in time. And there was people stamping on the Israeli flag. I don't know if you remember that. But, so it all kind of melded together. I mean, these were all little tidbits that should have melded into a bit, but they were all just loosey-goosey bits that I could throw out whenever,
And again, sometimes you're just calling out what they're doing. Like, you look amused, you're laughing, you seem to be having problems, you look like you have an interesting story. Like, what's the idea there? You're just trying to kind of like activate each person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're like a sleeper cell.
Laughter's contagious. So if those people laugh, then those people laugh, and then the more laughing you got, then you can get away with more. Once they're already laughing, then I can throw in that Columbine thing, and they're already on board. And even if they go off, they're not that far off. I can bring them right back.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think this special, so going on Amazon, October 15th, 25 cents. I think this is like a masterclass in crowd work and determination. And by crowd work, I don't just mean how you're improvising everything and riffing and calling out things happening in the audience, but just your stage presence too. You have the confidence to pull it off so that even if something is not necessarily funny, everyone's laughing. They're laughing with you, at you. Somehow you take them on the ride right from the beginning.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Dude, one last question about this. When you get up on stage, do you let a moment or two pass? Or are you like, I know you always say give it up for the MC. Because I did a trick on you once with that. I don't know if you remember. I knew you were going to say, give it up for James. And you were coming up, and I was the MC, and you were like 2 sets away. And I told everyone in the audience, okay, the final guy, and I said who you were, the final guy, as soon as he says, give it up for James, I want you all to boo.
Yeah.
And they did. And then you were like, did he put you up to this?
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was asking anyway.
You were very proud of your making them boo moment.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I was very proud of that. To make you laugh.
You got swept up in your own moment.
Right. To make
you were
laugh.
shepping nachas for yourself.
That was the moment of the year, the comedy moment of the year for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do feel like this was a masterclass in comedy, and particularly your style of comedy, which is the extreme in terms of laughs per minute that I've seen. So it was a great show. I encourage everybody to get it. Where can they get it? They can buy it on Amazon. Where else?
It'll be on Amazon October 15th. And right now, if this is before October 15th, you can get it on iTunes pre-sale. 25 sets, iTunes. It'll pop right up.
And they'll be able to download it from iTunes?
Yeah.
All right.
Then you can watch it over and over.
All right.
Watch my wife cry, tears of joy.
I did watch that twice, actually.
Yeah, it was very touching. I go back and watch that.
Okay, my other favorite Aaron moment is when you and your wife were just hanging out outside, and I brought you both on stage to do riff against each other. And you said it was the first time you were on stage together. I don't think that's quite true, but one of the first times.
Was I lying?
Well, I think you roasted your baby when your baby was
we roasted our baby once. But yeah, my wife and I. I took her on stage again since then. She didn't like it. She felt like I was hammering too much and I wouldn't let her speak enough. And I said, welcome to the workforce.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank
Aaron
you,
Berg,
James.
25 sets.
Such a pleasure.
Did you know that franchise owners are more likely to start a successful business than entrepreneurs who go it alone? Neighborly offers 19 premier brands with services that repair, maintain, and enhance homes. With Neighborly, you'll get the business model, marketing resources, and corporate support you need to pursue a rewarding future. Learn more about joining over 5,000 Neighborly franchises by downloading your free guide at go.nbly.com/podcast.